You know, there really isn't enough LGBTQ representation in gaming. Yeah, I bet you didn't think you'd hear that sentence in 2024, yet of course that is a sentence that Kotaku wants us to believe. Welcome back to Words of Paradise, I'm your host Leon Idle, and I really am looking at an article right now called New Report Suggests That Games Industry is Failing LGBTQ Players, which is hilarious considering if you've played a game in the modern era, it's almost impossible to play as a straight character, but we're going to go ahead and get into this article. Before we do, hit that subscribe button. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day, and in a time when free speech is failing in nerd culture, my channel and channels like mine are the only hope for gaming and nerd culture in general to get back to what it was before, the good old days. So yeah, hit that subscribe button, and let's go over the absolute hilarity that is New Report Suggests the games industry is failing LGBTQ players. Advocacy group GLAAD has run the numbers, and they're not great. Oh man, first of all, GLAAD, if you guys don't remember, yeah, they're the ones who are behind like the tuck-friendly swimsuits at Target. So they're an organization that, let's be real, are trying to push certain things onto children. They've got an absolute agenda to corrupt the youth. And I mean, this isn't just a matter of like, oh, you know, rated M games need to have more gay characters for gay adults. Like, I still disagree with that because, you know, it is what it is. It's a video game. But even if that was the case, now this is an organization that actually does in fact center around targeting towards children. And, you know, for games not being, you know, LGBTQ friendly enough, they certainly didn't have any trouble finding a screenshot from a video game that is incredibly gay. So I've known that the representation in games mattered ever since that day in 1987 when I finished Metroid and discovered the intergalactic bounty hunter Samus Aran was the rarest of things for the time. A cool female video game protagonist. Stop right here. I want you guys to take a guess. Is this author trans? Did you answer yes? Ding, 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 of course you did, because there ain't no way in 1987 a girl was playing Metroid to find out that, you know, Samus was in fact a female character, because let's be real, back in 1987, women made fun of guys for playing video games. In fact, guys made fun of guys for playing video games. It wasn't exactly the cool, hip hobby. So yes, this is of course being written by, you know, Caroline Petit, which, oh, yep, look at that. Tranny. Who'd have guessed? Doesn't even pass for a woman. Like on the best day, doesn't pass for a woman. That looks like if Vic Mignogna claimed Vic Mignogna was trans. But anyway, so now that we know what we're working with here, also, you know, they did not know in 1987 that representation mattered. I just want to throw that out there because no one was thinking crap like that in 1987. I loved playing as Mario or Link or any intrepid hero, but I was particularly thrilled to see a game that women can be heroes too. Now, you played through the whole game thinking that Samus was a dude. You don't know that Samus is a woman until you beat the game, by the way. So you weren't exactly thrilled to see that game because while you were playing through it, you had no idea that Samus was a girl, unless someone spoiled it for you, but I highly doubt that was the case. Now, with the game's more important cultural force than ever, the influential media advocacy organization GLAAD has released its first ever in-depth report examining how games are doing in terms of LGBTQ representation. And despite what this article says, I'm going to say right now, they are flat out lying and or wrong, but probably lying because again, take a look at video games in 2024, especially or anything from like 2016, maybe 2018 and onward, anything coming out of the West for damn sure. It's literally all full of the homos. Like, you can't pick up a video game without some homoeroticism. Like, let's be real. You can't sit here and claim that the LGBTQ folk are underrated or underrepresented when we'll go to Walmart or GameStop or eBay or wherever and just pick a video game at random, specifically a Western game, and it's gonna have some gayness in it. And by the way, that's fine. There's no biggie. I mean, well, if they're trying to push it on the children, then yes, that is a big deal. Again, wholly against that. But if it's a game for adults, even so, it's not a big deal. But this is just blatantly lies. So, the data strongly suggests that on one hand, games play an important role in the lives of many queer players, particularly queer youth. Oh, there it is, queer youth, again, targeting children. And on the other, the games are falling far short in terms of adequately representing and reaching those players. Then reminded me again why it is that Blizzard makes a massive deal out of literally every Overwatch character being gay. Like wasn't that the whole driving point between Overwatch 2? Was that they decided to axe a campaign or axe a PvP or PvE, whatever it was, basically an entire game mode in lieu of more rainbow characters? Like, I just don't think that with the marketing we've gotten for the last several years in video games, you can make a claim like this in good faith. The report released today is packed with an interesting and important statistics. Well, statistics, you can't go wrong with statistics. It's not like 87% of statistics are made up. Collected in partnership, I made that up by the way to prove my point, media data analytics from Nielsen, and you can see that it's in its entirety here. Among GLAAD's most striking findings is that 17% of active gamers identify as LGBTQ. 17%. That's a pretty massive number. And let's be real, the vast majority of these are kids that are going through a phase right now because it's a fad to be gay, just like it used to be a fad to be goth or emo. And I get it. There's a few of those, you strong emo girls and you goth mommies out there that are like, it's not a phase, mom. And you guys are still goth and emo to this day. You still listen to Falling in Reverse. I get it. I respect you. I see you. I love you. I mean, hit me up. DMs are open. But yeah, jokes aside, for the majority of these kids claiming to be LGBTQ, it is a phase. And yet, only a paltry 2% of games on major PC and console storefronts, PSN, Steam, Nintendo eShop, and so on, are tagged as having LGBTQ content. I want to know how you went through every single video game and you came to the conclusion 2%, or first of all, just because they're not tagged with it doesn't mean they don't have that content in it. Second of all, that content really shouldn't matter. Like, it's not I guarantee you, I haven't checked, but if I had to be willing to guess, if I go to the Final Fantasy 16 storefront page, it probably isn't tagged LGBTQ. But guess what? There's some gay ass characters in Final Fantasy 16. Like, that's sort of a plot point in the game, is the gay characters. And if I remember right, the gay community, the LGBTQ folks, didn't even, they threw a fit because it wasn't prominent enough. Like, oh wait, so it just represented it like a regular run-of-the-mill couple or relationship. It didn't make a big deal of it. I thought that was what you wanted. I thought you wanted equal representation. Well, we don't make a big deal out of straight romances. Again, there's literally no pleasing these individuals on either side, so it's just super fun and funny to look at. Suggesting the games which actually feature queer characters or storylines remain extremely rare. But they're not rare, though. What about Dragon Age Origins? Wasn't that like back in 2008? And if I remember right, you could romance characters of the same sex. I know you could romance characters of the same sex in Fallout 4. Again, I already brought up Overwatch. Obviously, The Last of Us. Like, just throw a dart at a dartboard full of modern games. I guarantee you, there are some gay characters in it. Shit, even Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom have an openly gay character in it. Like, does the game ever go out of its way to say he's gay? No, but it's not necessarily important to the story. But you look at the guy, you look at how he interacts with other guys, you look at the way he's dressed, you look at his body language, and everyone knows, oh yeah, Bolson's gay. Like, I think it was Bolson, or I don't remember the name of the character, but either way, homeboy that, is the builder, yeah, he's gay. With big influential games like The Last of Us Part 2 and Apex Legends prominently featuring queer and trans characters, apparently there's another one, Apex Legends, so you were able to just pluck that out of there. Again, because they're everywhere, it's perhaps easy to feel like the LGBT representation in games is more widespread than it actually is. No, it's incredibly widespread. It's in everything. It's in probably, I would say, easily 70% of games, even though only 2% are tagged. Also, how many of those games on Steam aren't tagged as queer friendly or whatever, because they're like early access indie games that are never going to get finished. But of course, they're going to add those to the numbers to make it look like the representation is incredibly small. If you've got 50,000 games on Steam and 48,000 of them are like $2.99 indie games that no one's ever going to buy, like the upcoming Epstein Island game. I bet that upcoming Epstein Island game made by AI doesn't have LGBT tags to it, or Pal World probably doesn't have LGBTQ tags to it. That doesn't, I really don't think that's fair to hold in your statistics, but that's how they game the numbers. That's how they make these articles, so you can say, oh wow, there aren't very many gay characters in gaming at all if it's only 2%, when they're clearly gaming the system like that. When the reality may be that the industry is still falling well short of adequately reflecting the LGBTQ player base. Oh, trust me, they are not. Games are a refuge for many queer players. The data shows that many people who play games are queer, and that games often play a particularly important role in their lives. For many of them, in this period when hundreds of pieces of anti-LGBTQ legislation are being produced, games may be something of a safe haven. Oh yeah, of course they didn't cite a single source there. Show us some of this anti-LGBTQ legislation. Show us all the hundreds of pieces of it. It's not there. Once again, you see Kotaku just pulling stuff out their ass because it's what they do best. According to GLAAD, 55% of LGBTQ gamers who reside in states where such legislation has been proposed or passed, say they feel more accepted in the gaming community than they do in general public areas where they live. I highly doubt that, because if that was the case, then why would Kotaku every other day run articles talking about how toxic gaming is? Whereas if you're a regular ass homo and you walk to the library or a Home Depot, as if gay people build stuff, alright, Starbucks, ain't no one throwing a fit about your gayness. People are gonna say some shit online in the lobby though, because that's real. That's how gaming works. You talk shit. This is completely, this is anecdotally, but I would be willing to bet verifiably false. Also, they say 55% of LGBTQ gamers who reside in states where the legislation has been proposed, but they don't say what states. Again, they don't say what legislation, because they're making this all up, or if they're not making up, they are heavily skewing the data. 65%, oh yeah, here's another, 65%, to throw more numbers at us, percent of players in these states say they depend on games to get them through tough times. Well, then you're weak pussies. And a whopping 75% say the games allow them to express themselves in ways they don't feel comfortable doing in the real world. Well, then you're a double pussy. As a trans person, I can't believe it took them this long, this far into the article, to acknowledge that they are a trans person. That is wild. As a trans person who grew up with the games and who's known many other queer and trans people for whom games have been a vital avenue of exploration and expression in a hostile world, I wasn't exactly surprised by this data, and yet seeing numbers asserting just how widespread such experiences are is powerful and compelling. On a video call, I asked Blair Durkee, Associate Director of Gaming for GLAD, about the perception that games are doing better on the LGBTQ representation than they actually are. I think so much of our media is dominated by people who live in more progressive areas, she said, and they forget there's a wide swath of the country that is still deep in this anti-LGBTQ culture. It's a culture now. Hey, if this is a culture, hit subscribe. Hit subscribe to my channel. We're gonna build our own culture. We'll build our own anti-LGBTQ community. And you know what? You guys who are writing this article, you're welcome to join, because you're clearly anti-LGBT yourselves, because you're not given the whole acronym. Isn't it supposed to be LGBTQIA2+, something stupid? If I got that right, I'm going to be amazed, because I have no idea. Point is, you ain't given the full acronym. The one that your daddy Justin Trudeau screwed up when doing his little live press conference. That was one of the things we tried to highlight with our stats looking at LGBTQ gamers who live in more restrictive states. States that have passed or proposed anti-LGBT legislation versus LGBTQ gamers in other areas. Once again, I have to just note, no mention of what the actual legislation was. Even as many LGBTQ players find opportunities for community and self-expression in games, they also remain at higher risk for harassment in gaming spaces, with 52% saying they've experienced harassment when playing online. Bullshit. Everyone has experienced harassment while playing online. That is the point of playing online. Now, if you want to say 52 have experienced harassment because they're gay, then you know what? You might have a case there. But let's be real. How many of us played, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 back in 2007, and we were called, the F slur that rhymes with maggot a million times, regardless of our sexuality? You probably don't know if the person on the opposite end of the microphone is actually a raging homo or not, but you're going to use that word because it's a fun word to say. When playing online, and 61% expressing discomfort about using voice chat in online games. I would just like to reiterate, pussies. The capitalist argument for better LGBTQ representation in games. They want to make a capitalist argument because they think that's going to sway over some of the right-wing chuds. They spend all their time making articles to completely denigrate, like your boy here. Not that I'm right-wing, but if the shoe fits. Of course, GLAD isn't just collecting this data because it's interesting. The organization hopes to encourage developers and studios to do more to reflect and represent LGBTQ players. A common argument I've heard for why games haven't made more effort to incorporate gay and trans characters in storylines is that developers or publishers may be afraid of alienating or driving away non-LGBTQ players. Well, because they've seen it happen. There's a reason Get Woke Go Broke is a moniker, because it actually is a thing that does in fact happen. The Marvels, anybody? However, the data suggests the game developers are leaving money on the table as LGBTQ players gravitate towards games in which they can see themselves reflected. Oh, seeing yourself is so important. Meanwhile, 60% of non-LGBTQ players say that playing as an LGBTQ player would make no difference in their decision to buy the game. So hold on. Let's take a step back and let's analyze this, because this is my favorite part of the article. I'm gonna be 100% honest. This is your boy's favorite part. Non-gays say, yeah, we don't care if we're playing a gay character or not. I know, believe it or not, plenty of straight men that play as Tracer in Overwatch. However, according to the gays, it does make a difference if the character is gay or not for them. See, it sounds to me like the gays are the one that got the problem then. If they're like, oh, I can't play this because I don't see myself. Maybe you're just a narcissistic piece of shit. That's my thought process behind it, because if the majority of regular straight folk, to use your word, cis, if the normal majority of cis folk, don't care if they're playing a gay character or not, they're like, yeah, whatever, game is fun. But you have a problem playing as something that you can't identify with, that's not equal to what you are in the real world on the outside. You're messed up in the head, and you're ruining the space for everyone, and probably ruining the space for other gay gamers who just want to kick back and play Tears of the Kingdom. Like, it really is that simple. You're narcissistic pieces of trash. Get the hell out the gaming space. You haven't earned your right. Not because you're gay, or not because you like to suck cock, or whatever it is, but because you're a fucking douchebag. At the end of the day, we know this article is bunk. We know this article is absolute trash, but how many individuals are going to see this and believe it? And I don't mean individuals like you and me. I don't mean the average general folk watching. I mean people who are up in the upper echelons, who are working in companies like Blizzard, like Bethesda, the people in the Western gaming space that are going to say, oh no, look at this article from Kotaku. Well, we've definitely got to make sure we get that ESG dollar. We got to make sure that we definitely put more. Oh man, I just said Bethesda. Starfield had some full-on gayness to it. Again, no problem with that. From what I've heard, Starfield's actually a very good game. But yeah, that's just another one to add to the list of some open gayness. Anyway, we're going to see these large conglomerates, these big corporations look at articles like this, see them gaining traction, and think, oh man, this is going to be a problem. We need to take care of this right now. And they're going to be focusing on things that don't matter. The majority of people, I'd be willing to bet, gay or straight, don't give a shit as long as the game is good. You want to know what we want? I just said, good games. But you got people like this. They want to make everything about identity. They want to make everything about LGBT this, black this, white this, straight this. And they want to foster this culture war because there's a financial incentive to do it. What you gotta do? You gotta follow the money. You always gotta follow the money. And I'm getting real damn tired of doing this same video every 5 or 6 months or so. But it needs to bear repeating because we have to take this culture back. But these are just my opinions. I want to know yours. Let me know in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Bolt the Word. And please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. Not always about video games or homoeroticism in the gaming space, but anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord, get in on the conversations, choose what articles that I cover during a day, as well as you can get merch, and there's a discount code VitalIdol. Get yourself a shirt, a mug, rep it. I would love to see it, but until next time, it's all here in the Nerdosphere, and this has been Words of Paradise.